We're already halfway through the month of July, and to start another week here on Locked On Blue Devils, we've got some mailbag questions that we want to answer. Basketball due up on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. Welcome on in. Another episode of Locked On Blue Devils here on this Monday, July 15th, 2024. My name is JJ Jackson, your host for Locked On Blue Devils here today. Hope you enjoyed that new little intro video that we've got here with Locked On. We're starting a new week. We've got a Mailbag Monday episode of the program coming up for you today. And a programming note, we're back. We're back in full swing here on the College Channel with Locked On Blue Devils. We will have shows for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, breaking down all the latest news, notes, and thoughts with Duke Athletics. A whole lot of talk around this Duke men's basketball program. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Also, make sure that you check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like this video, share it with your friends. Really do appreciate all the support that you give us here at Locked On Blue Devils as we continue to grow out this channel more and more each and every day with every episode that goes on by. Again, we're going to be having a mailbag show today with our good pal Kevin Connelly, who's the site expert from Ball Durham. If you have not done so already, make sure you check out Ball Durham for all of their great work that Kevin does. And then also follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils. Follow me there as well at _JJ_Jackson_. So without further ado, really excited to bring him on in. Kevin Connelly here with us once again, yet another week closer to the return of the college athletics sports calendar. And here we are, Kevin, halfway through July. I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing good, JJ. How about yourself?
Very well. Thank you for asking. Excited to kind of dive into some of these mailbag questions. People sending questions to us, lockedonbluedevils@gmail.com or on Twitter at LO_Blue Devils. So let's start to answer those questions here to begin today's show, Kevin. First question in via Twitter, Devil in a Blue Dress, one of our favorites, descending questions, writes and asks, did Cooper Flagg's participation with Team USA increase your expectations for him even more? I think that's a really good question to ask. Blown away by what we saw for Team USA. And I don't know how it couldn't increase your expectations for what you might see out of Cooper Flagg this upcoming season.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question because I think expectations are already very high. I mean, the expectation even before he went to USA basketball training camp was that he was going to be the number one pick in the 2025 class. That he was going to be probably one of the top 10 best players in college basketball, and that might be on the safe side. You could probably push it to 7 or 5, and you could dare push top 3 if you really wanted to. I know there are some upperclassmen that are returning that are going to be very good, but the full expectation from every college basketball coach, insider, player, anyone or surrounding the game is that Cooper Flagg is going to be a star. But I'm going to have to say yes, just with the way he played and the video that came out and the quotes that came out from other people about Cooper Flagg's game, I do think it raised the level of expectation, what he's going to bring on the floor at Duke next season. I think that might be a little unfair to him. Let's still be honest. Yes, it's one thing to perform well alongside other NBA players against some of the best players in the NBA in a summer workout, in summer training camp. But they weren't game planning. They didn't have a defensive game plan to stop Cooper Flagg. If we're being honest, we're talking about the USA basketball men's senior national team. College teams are going to have game plans to stop Cooper Flagg, and they're going to come up with defensive strategies to try and slow him down. Now, is it going to be easy? No. But I still think what Cooper Flagg showed last week in Las Vegas at the USA basketball training camp with the select team, it certainly did raise the expectations. I think especially now with the chatter going around in July and there's not that much to talk about, it rose the expectations for him personally when he finally takes the floor in November as a Duke Blue Devil.
Last week on the show, we talked about that performance that he had against Team USA. Again, they're getting ready for the Paris Olympics. A win today against Australia, an exhibition play for Team USA. So Cooper Flagg and that select team really put them in a good spot to get ready for this run towards that gold medal. But as we talked about last week, a rather revealing quote from Cooper Flagg's father, Ralph, talking about his son, saying pretty much, hey, if he's doing this against Team USA, going back to college basketball should be quite easy for Cooper Flagg with what he's going to do, which is crazy to think about because he's never played a college basketball game.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and it theoretically makes sense, right? But I will say, like, in those exhibition games, or I guess they weren't even really exhibition games, they were scrimmages where they really only played, I think, 30, 40 minutes max. There wasn't a real defensive game plan. Like, Steve Kerr wasn't coming up with defensive strategies and putting an X on Cooper Flagg's jersey. It was like, this is the guy we have to shut down. Because if you look through the rest of the select team roster, yeah, they were really good role players in the NBA, but I think the purpose of those scrimmages were just to get comfortable for the senior national team, to get comfortable playing on the court with each other and playing offense with each other and defensive communications. But there wasn't any real strategy involved, and you don't really see that even in the two exhibition games thus far against Canada and Australia. There's not that clear defensive focus of what this team is going to do, and they're not showing all their cards here early. So yes, it was certainly impressive what Cooper Flagg did in certainly one-on-one settings and scoring over players like Drew Holiday and Anthony Davis going up against LeBron James. Yes, it was impressive, but I will try to pump the brakes a little bit. But I know nationally, yes, the expectations certainly did rise for what he's going to do next season or this season.
This first question for our mailbag today: did Cooper Flagg's participation with Team USA increase your expectations for him even more? I'd have to ask, just thinking about the college game himself, is it fair to put Flagg already on kind of a short list for the Wooden Award and some of these top awards going into a college basketball season for the best player? Is it, we do Heisman odds well before the season gets going. Is it fair to put those expectations on Cooper Flagg?
I mean, absolutely. I think if you look back in recent history of college basketball, some of the top freshmen are always included on those preseason award watch lists. You go down for the 5 positions, obviously, and then the National Player of the Year, like you mentioned, the Wooden Award. I'd be flat out stunned if Cooper Flagg was not on the preseason Wooden Award watch list, as well as, I guess they'll list him as a power forward when Duke officially puts together their depth chart, and then you see like the Karl Malone and the Jerry West award watch list. So I guess you would be on that Karl Malone power forward award watch list. And I think one player that's not getting enough hype after what I saw a couple of exhibition games for him playing with NBA players and trying to qualify for the Olympics is VJ Edgecombe. And I know Duke fans are familiar with VJ Edgecombe. He was a key Duke recruit. Think his official visit also lined up on the same weekend with Cooper Flagg's A Countdown to Craziness.
Yep.
And he was playing with the Bahamas national team. And you watch him, and that's a team with DeAndre Ayton on it. And sometimes looked like VJ Edgecombe was the best player on the floor. So I think right there, they're going to be two of the best freshmen in college basketball, and obviously VJ Edgecombe playing at Baylor. And then people are going to talk about the 2 Rutgers stars as well in the freshmen, and Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. But to answer your question, yeah, I fully expect Cooper Flagg to be on the Wooden preseason award watch list.
All right, let's continue this conversation. It's a Mailbag Monday episode here with Locked On Blue Devils. We'll answer more of your questions after we take this first time out here on today's show. Okay, Locked On Blue Devils brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's the formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. It's eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers, and a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Keep going forward here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. JJ Jackson alongside Kevin Connelly. Questions sent in for our mailbag today via X at @LO_Blue Devils or at LockedOnBlueDevils@gmail.com to email them over. All right. Question comes in from Ryan. Ryan asks, we often talk benefits of a very tall and big Duke lineup. Is there any downside? However, this is one of the biggest teams in all of college basketball. Jon Scheyer talked about that a little bit on the Devil's Den podcast interview that he did with those guys. Go check that out. But yeah, there are certainly benefits when you've got a tall and big Duke lineup. Any downside, Kevin?
Well, I think, yeah, if you asked this question a couple of years ago and you had such a tall team, you could be worried about their athleticism and how could they move laterally and how could they stay in front of players defensively. And I think you could also bring up shooting. Like if you're a tall player, can you shoot the ball very well? With this team right now, I don't really see that because the athleticism Cooper Flagg has. And I think if you just look at him, you don't think he's the most athletic player, but when you get into the tape, he's very athletic and he's a great defender. Obviously, look at the big man in the middle in Common Malawak. He seems very mobile and agile. The biggest thing for him is going to be his strength. Can he hold up physically at 7'2"? And I think they listed him somewhere close to 225, 250 pounds, but you think that's probably on the higher side than what he really is when you look at his frame. So yeah, there certainly could be negatives to having a really tall team, but the way this roster is comprised, I don't really see that on the surface. I think maybe once we get a little bit more footage of them playing in a 5-on-5 setting, and then as we get into September and October and playing those D2 and D3 teams in those exhibition games before the season officially begins, I think you might have a little bit of a better answer to that question then. But right now, I don't see a ton of downside with how big this roster is.
One of the big benefits that we could talk about, obviously, you have to feel good about your effort on the glass, right? When Duke is so big and you're talking about 6'5" guards and Caleb Foster and Tyrese Proctor and down the line, everybody else larger than that for the Duke basketball team. Maybe not as much of a downside to your point because people are getting more and more athletic and the lateral quickness is not something that you necessarily have to worry too much about. But one of the obvious benefits should be Duke's rebounding ability.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you can even look back to last year, right? I think you look at a player like Ryan Young and you look at a player like Kyle Filipowski, on the surface, were either of those two players very athletic? And I think more people would say no, right? You wouldn't look at them and say, well, they're the peak version of athleticism for two guys in the front court for a Duke basketball team. But, I mean, they were able to hold their own. I think Jon Scheyer has shown that he is able to adjust on the fly given his personnel. And, yeah, you look at the year before that in Jon Scheyer's first year when you're playing 2 7-footers and Derek Lively and Kyle Filipowski. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I'm pretty sure Duke was the best, if not the best rebounding team in the country. They were certainly top 5 or top 10. So I think that could play a vital role again this season with how big they are and how athletic they are below that free throw line.
Really excited to see this Duke team and their size once that first game gets going, to see how much of an advantage it could be for the Blue Devils throughout the course of the season. Thanks to Ryan for that question there. All right, we got a question from Tony. Tony sent us a message via email. Thanks for the email, Tony. Again, lockdownbluedevils@gmail.com. Is there a world where Sion James becomes more important than either Tyrese Proctor or Caleb Foster? I like to think about this one here, Kevin. At first, your initial thought might be no, but I think about it a little bit more, and there might be an argument for that to be the case. Is there a world where Sion James becomes more important than the two experienced guys that have played for Duke previously?
This is an awesome question because I think you laid it out perfect, JJ. When you hear that question, your immediate thought is no. But then you think about it a little bit more, and your reason for no is, all right, Tyrese Proctor and Caleb Foster are going to be the two primary guys that have the basketball in their hands, right? But then you always hear in college basketball about the glue guys, right? The guy that holds everything together. And it seems like Sion James is going to be that under-the-radar guy who's not putting up 10, 11, 12, 13 points per game, but he's giving you 6 points and 7 rebounds per game. And I feel like Sion James is going to fit that mold this season for Duke, and it's going to be important. They're going to need somebody who brings that toughness, that defensive versatility, is not going to be afraid to mix it up down low with some bigger, stronger players if he's oversized. So Yes, there is a world where Sion James is one of the most important players on this roster, but not for what you would expect on the surface. You'd have to dig deeper, not even into the numbers, but more into the film and how he's playing and how the team plays around him when he's on the floor. So I really think it's an awesome question. I do think the three most important guys on this team are going to be Cooper Flagg, Tyrese Proctor, and Caleb Foster for the obvious reasons. They're probably three of the most talented players and two with experience. But yeah, I think Sion James is going to be very important to this team. And conceivably, I could see a world where he's more important than the two returning guards.
Well, thank you very much, Tony, for that question. Well done. Excited to see the year that Sion James is set to have for Duke. We're seeing some of these scrimmage highlights and just photos of him in action. My goodness, his size just absolutely pops out. Going to be really strong for this Duke basketball team. A physical presence that I think we're going to be glad is on our side when it's all said and done. All right, we need to take our final break here on today's show. When we come back, we'll start to wrap it up. A few more mailbag questions that we'll answer right after this. All right, with Locked On today, definitely want to also tell you about Locked On Sports Today. That's right, our company, Locked On, your team every day, has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. You can go ahead and make Locked On Sports Today your second listen of the day, or we're a week away from ACC kickoff, so make sure you go check out Locked On ACC as people are getting ready for this upcoming football season. We keep moving forward. Kevin Conley's here with us from Durham. Great work over there. You could follow Kevin on X at KevinConley24. And Kevin, you've also got a lot of good stuff going on at the website. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's even though we're in July, we're still on top of Duke basketball stuff. Obviously, we highlighted everything going on in the past couple of weeks with Cooper Flagg. We're all on top of that. We mentioned briefly the U.S. Olympic team with Jason Tatum, obviously run by Grant Hill as well. Still waiting to see officially if Kaman Malawak makes the South Sudan team. I know they were going through training camp this week as well. They played an exhibition earlier today. They have another one tomorrow as well. So there hasn't been a lot of chatter and publicity around the South Sudan team and their exhibition. So we're still waiting to see if Kaman officially made that squad. But we're all over it over at balldurham.com. So come give us a read every single day.
Really good stuff over there at Ball Durham. Do check them out. All right, we've got two more questions left for our mailbag today. Again, any questions that you want to ask in the future, just send them over. LockedOnBlueDevils@gmail.com via email or DM us on X at LO_Blue Devils. All right, next question comes in from Brooks, who writes, how many players would you play if you were Jon Scheyer to start the season?
That's a really good question because typically you have a soft spot in the beginning of the season. That's not the case this year with the Duke basketball team. We've gone over their non-conference schedule. Team hasn't officially confirmed everything, but like the big boy games have been locked. You look at Kentucky, you look at Kansas. You have the ACC, SEC challenge against Auburn as well. Now, Illinois comes in the middle of ACC play. You always get an ACC game early in December as well. So, yeah, it is a loaded schedule. To begin the season, I think you're going to want to go a little bit deeper into the roster. I'm going to conservatively say 9. I think that's a good place to start because you figure there's 11 guys on scholarship guys on the roster that would be vying for minutes. And let's just say for sake of the argument, your starting 5 is Tyrese Proctor, Caleb Foster, Sion James, Cooper Flagg, and Kaman Malawak. Let's just say those are your 5 right off the bat. And then you look at the bench, Isaiah Evans, Con Kneppel, Mason Gillis, Malik Brown, Patton Ngaba, and Darren Harris. So that's 6 guys coming off the bench. I think everything you hear about Con is really good reviews from what he's done in this offseason. Know he was at the Jason Tatum and Chris Paul elite camp a couple of weeks ago. And you're seeing some way too early 2025 mock drafts, and he's dead smack right in the middle of it
Yep.
like right around his pick number 15, and that really surprised me. So I think he's going to command playing time early. Obviously, Mason Gillis, Malik Brown, the two transfers, they're going to get playing time early. I think Isaiah Evans is going to get playing time as well. And right now, I would just envision maybe the two guys on the outside are Patton Ngaba and Darren Harris. If you were to start a rotation on July 15th. Now, obviously, that's saying a lot because the season doesn't start till November 4th. But right now, I would go conservatively. Those 9 should probably somehow fit into the rotation early in the season. Obviously, everybody knows the rotation kind of shrinks as you get closer to the postseason into March. But yeah, I would put Pat and Darren on the outside of that rotation looking in and say I could comfortably see Jon Scheyer playing 9 guys over the first month or 2 of the year.
I am so in line with you, Kevin. I think that is the correct 9 from what we're seeing so far, with these workouts throughout the summer, what we're hearing as well, that of the 11, you've got Cam Sheffield, who's a scholarship player that's come on that's not expected to contribute to the team this season, and then an open scholarship as well. Duke's got decisions to make, whether to let Spencer Hubbard get it once again this season, maybe somebody like Neil Begovic or Stanley Borden gets that scholarship opportunity. So of the 11, 9 really appear to be in strong contention to get some run there early for the Duke basketball team. And I think you got to play 9 or 10 early to truly get a sense in game settings what you have, because it appears to be more difficult than not later in the year to try and make those adjustments. So that question from Brooks actually kind of sets up this final question that I really love, Kevin. And it's this: which freshman or newcomer can you see starting out slow but figuring it out once conference play starts? That comes from Blue Devil 22, who sent us a DM on X. Which freshman or newcomer can you see starting out slow but figuring it out once conference play starts? I'll put some names out there, Kevin, and then I'll let you go and I can kind of wrap it up at the end. I'm trying to decide between Mason Gillis and Isaiah Evans are the 2 names that I've got in my head.
Yeah, Isaiah Evans was the first name that came to my head as well, if we're just talking about freshmen. With the newcomers, I can see it being Sion James.
Okay.
I really can. I can see him starting slow and then figuring out like, oh, hey, this is how we're going to do this here, and this is how everyone's going to work together on the floor. Because when you look at Mason Gillis, the numbers don't jump off the screen at you at Purdue. Like 3-and-D guy, he knows what he has to work on. I think he only averaged about 6.5 points per game. Yes, he was the 6th man of the year in the Big Ten. So when you only average 6.5 points per game, I'm hesitant to say you're going to start slow, if you know what I mean. So I can see it being Sion James as well, for what I mentioned. Malik Brown, I think he's going to be a really good defender. I don't think he's going to be another guy that puts up a lot of scoring numbers. But if I have to give one answer, it would be Isaiah Evans, just because of the body frame. I think as he continues, he should be living in the weight room this offseason. And then as the season goes on, I know it's tougher to get in the weight room, especially when you're dealing with nagging injuries and bumps and bruises. But I can see Isaiah Evans needing a couple of games, weeks, months to just get accustomed to the physicality and the speed of the college game. And I feel like once that light bulb goes on in his head, it's going to be all bets are off, and he's going to become a really good player for this Duke team.
Yeah, I'm so excited for the potential there for Isaiah Evans. Again, Blue Devil 22, thank you for this question. Which freshman or newcomer can you see starting out slow but figuring it out once conference play starts? The reason that I had Isaiah Evans for the same that you did, Kevin, right? Just the size alone, his figure. There's a reason he's called slim. There's a reason that he's got comparisons to Brandon Ingram, right? Because his body just needs to fill out as he gets older and matures his body. For Mason Gillis, the reason I went in that direction is because, yes, we've got the Big Ten 6th man of the year, who's an elite, absolutely elite three-point shooter. Didn't score a whole lot at Purdue. You mentioned the 6 points per game, but he averaged 22 minutes as a Purdue Boilermaker throughout the course of his career. I don't know that there are 22 minutes available to somebody like Mason Gillis. And when you really need to make an impact knocking down shots and whatnot, I think he's going to give you the effort always, always, always. on the defensive end of the floor. That's what he did throughout his Purdue career. But I don't know. I could just see being asked to take on a lesser role, and then it just feels like you'd have a little bit more pressure maybe to go out and knock down all of these shots while you're playing for a school like Duke. That's why if I had to throw a Newcomer out there, I would actually go in Mason Gillis's direction, Kevin, because I think his ask is going to be not as many minutes available for him, and then there could be more pressure put on.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think you could probably draw comparisons for what his role is going to be to that of in Jon Scheyer's first year and Jacob Grandison, the transfer from Illinois. I think you can make some really good comparisons coming from the Big Ten, coming from a successful program like Illinois, spending your final year at Duke, and maybe not playing.
Yeah, I think we all thought we were going to get more out of Jacob Grandison. I think if we were talking about it this time this year, we would have got more. So
comes off the bench in a couple of games, hits a couple of big shots in certain situations, and you're always wanting a little bit more, but sometimes it doesn't formulate. So I can see how you made that decision, and I can draw comparisons between the two of those players.
All right, that's our Mailbag Monday episode today. We want to hear from you. Sound off in the comments below. What do you think of these questions and our answers that we provided today with this mailbag? Kevin Connelly from Ball Durham, go check out all of his great work. Kevin, your time today is greatly appreciated. I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon, okay?
Thanks, JJ.
All right, that's Kevin Connelly joining us once again here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. And we are back 5 days a week from here on out as we get ready for another upcoming exciting college athletics season. That's going to do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.